Hey, this is Tyler. Welcome back. I'm glad you're here. In the last episode, we covered our focus on consciousness as the foundation for meaning. In episode 4, we're going to zoom out to explore the grand cosmic and evolutionary narrative that connects all living systems. This episode highlights life's defiance of entropy through complexity, cooperation, and purpose, while addressing key philosophical, scientific, and cultural ideas at the same time. So our central question in this episode is, how does the story of life's evolution against entropy give us a meaningful narrative in a chaotic universe? As we previously covered in episodes 1, 2, and 3, there's a cosmic paradox and our search for purpose. Postmodern deconstruction left us without grand narratives, and we need to rebuild those. Episode 3 covered consciousness as the platform for meaning, and now we look at how life itself resists entropy. So why does this matter? Well, evolution is frequently dismissed as a random process, particularly by those who misunderstand its mechanisms or wish to reduce it to a meaningless sequence of events. This oversimplification feeds into postmodern nihilism, reinforcing the idea that life lacks direction or significance, and that everything in the universe is just physical processes and random events. However, when viewed through the lens of complexity and cooperation, evolution reveals a deeper, more purposeful narrative that challenges this bleak worldview. At its core, evolution is not merely about randomness. It's a process driven by variation, selection, and retention. While mutations may introduce random changes, natural selection acts as a profoundly non-random force, favoring adaptations that enhance survival and reproduction. Over billions of years, this dynamic has produced staggering levels of complexity, from the molecular precision of DNA to the neural intricacies of the human brain. A quick example of that complexity that inspires wonder is the intricate interplay of proteins, enzymes, and organelles within a single cell that defies the notion of chaos, showcasing a highly ordered system that emerges over time. Just the ability to go from a prokaryotic cell like bacteria to a eukaryotic cell is absolutely astounding. According to our current scientific understanding, it likely took around 1 billion years to go from no life to the emergence of prokaryotic cells. With the first evidence of life in the form of fossilized microbial mats appearing about 3.5 billion years after the Earth formed, then it took another, say, 1 billion to 1.5 billion years for prokaryotic cells to evolve into eukaryotic cells, with the first eukaryotes occurring, say, 2 billion years ago. Just the existence of life in this crazy, intricate, complex system is just utterly incredible. And I really think incredibly rare. If you look at that and you're saying that life emerged, took a couple billion years to get from a single cell bacteria into a complex cell is just utterly remarkable. And while competition is highlighted as the driving force of evolution, cooperation also plays an equally vital role. Life's trajectory shows a repeated pattern. Individual units, whether cells or organisms or tribes, come together to form larger, more complex wholes. This process, known as major evolutionary transitions, demonstrates how cooperation fosters new levels of complexity and purpose, just like us going from single-celled organisms into complex single-celled organisms. The transition from single-celled organisms to multicellular life stands as one of the most awe-inspiring milestones in evolutionary history. This shift required individual cells to forego complete autonomy and to work collaboratively as a unified organism, embodying the principle that cooperation can unlock new levels of complexity and resilience. Multicellularity is believed to have emerged independently multiple times, ranging from algae to fungi to animals. highlighting its evolutionary significance. Key innovations such as cell adhesion mechanisms, intercellular communication, and differentiation into specialized cell types allowed these cooperative assemblies to adapt to diverse environments and to take on functions far beyond the capabilities of individual cells. For instance, multicellular organisms could develop protective outer layers, more efficient energy usage, and complex reproductive strategies, enabling them to thrive in ways unattributable to solitary cells. This evolutionary leap is a testament to the profound power of cooperation in driving complexity, providing a blueprint for how collective effort can transcend individual limitations and achieve extraordinary outcomes. These patterns of complexity and cooperation suggest that life is not a futile struggle against randomness, but a purposeful defiance against entropy. Evolution tells a story of relentless creativity, where the universe itself seems inclined towards higher forms of organization and connection. This narrative counters postmodern nihilism by offering a cosmic perspective that sees life as part of a larger, more meaningful trajectory. If the universe naturally progresses towards complexity, might this point to an underlying directionality or purpose? Teilhard de Chardin's idea of the omega point, where evolution culminates in greater consciousness and unity, aligns this view and echoes our own belief in humanity's role as a singularity creating something greater and ever progressing towards that greater entity in the future. In the face of postmodernism's deconstruction of grand narratives, evolution provides a compelling counterpoint. Its story of complexity, cooperation, and resilience suggests that meaning is not imposed externally, but emerges organically through life's defiance of chaos. By embracing this narrative, we can find purpose not in abstract constructs, but in our role as participants in life's ongoing journey towards complexity and interconnectedness. For you, this perspective ties directly into your broader philosophical journey, marked by creation, transcendence, and adaptation. It's central to humanity's cosmic purpose. It offers a hopeful, scientifically grounded alternative to nihilism and a framework for constructing meaning that aligns with belief in the human capacity to create and shape our destiny. Hopefully, that gives you some antidote against the nihilism that exists in the world and that is being thrown at us. If we look at the origins of life and the evolutionary tendencies of life, we see that there's a baked in methodology. We see that there's a fight against death, there's a fight against entropy, and that our purpose is to continue to fight against that, working towards a greater purpose for everyone. Let's shift a bit and talk about what entropy is. Entropy is the universe's default state. The second law of thermodynamics states that systems naturally progress towards entropy or disorder. This principle governs everything, from the cooling of stars to the eventual decay of complex structures over time. In a closed system, energy disperses and organization gives way to randomness. Entropy is, in many ways, the universe's tendency towards equilibrium. It could be its objective function. The universe could be pushing towards a total equilibrium. It's an inevitable process where distinction fades, energy becomes less useful, and systems fall apart. And entropy and nihilism are tightly coupled because people who like to align themselves with nihilism point towards the eventual heat death of the universe. But I want to posit a different story that's aligned with that. Just because the crumbling of a mountain or the rusting of metal over time exemplifies the relentless march towards disorder, or theoretical cosmology predicts a distant future where the universe reaches maximum entropy with no usable energy left for stars to burn or for life to exist, we do exist. And in stark contrast to entropy's tendency towards disorder, life represents a remarkable exception. It's a localized system that creates and maintains order. In fact, it increases order in the fight against entropy. Through self-organization, life forms from the simplest bacteria to complex human societies build intricate structures, processes, and relationships that defy the universal drift towards chaos. How does life do this? It harnesses energy from the environment, whether that's photosynthesis, where plants capture sunlight to fuel creation of complex sugars, whether that's metabolism, where organisms consume energy in various different forms and use it to maintain their structures or reproduce or repair damage, or ecosystems, where independent systems of organisms recycle energy and resources, creating dynamic but stable networks. Life doesn't violate the second law of thermodynamics, but works within it. By importing energy from sunlight, food, or chemical gradients, life creates order locally as a direct fight against entropy. As a quick example, at larger scale, ecosystems demonstrate how life maintains balances through intricate interdependencies such as predator-prey dynamics or nutrient cycles. Life's ability to create order in a universe dominated by entropy is not just a physical anomaly. It's a profound philosophical and existential statement. It means that we're driving towards complexity. Life does not merely survive, but it evolves. It's moving towards greater complexity and interconnection. This progression can be seen in transition from single-celled organisms to multicellular organisms, and from individual organisms to human societies. Life's defiance of entropy aligns with a larger story of creation, resilience, and meaning. This narrative offers a counterpoint to nihilism, suggesting that life is not an accident, but part of a purposeful trajectory. Interestingly, evolution relies on the interplay between chaos and order, showing that both systems are needed. Random changes, or the chaos, in genetic material provide the raw material for evolution. Without randomness, there would be no diversity for natural selection to act upon. And through the non-random process of natural selection, life builds on this randomness to create increasingly sophisticated systems. This balance between chaos and order mirrors our broader philosophical perspective. The dynamic tension between creation and destruction, order and chaos, is the engine of progress and meaning. And life is on a trajectory of increasing complexity up through today and into the future. For humanity, life's defiance of entropy offers a model for how we can confront existential challenges. Just as life thrives by creating order in chaotic environments, humans find purpose and meaning, culture, and connection in an uncertain world. We like being on the edge. Too much order, and we're bored. Too much chaos, and we have anxiety. We like being on the edge of that order and chaos. Like evolution's use of entropy to fuel innovation, humans use challenges and chaos as catalysts for perseverance, creativity, and resilience. While entropy represents the universe's overarching tendency towards disorder, life stands as that localized counterforce, or that beacon of order and complexity. This interplay suggests that the story of the cosmos is not one of inevitable decay, but one of dynamic tension, where life's creativity defies and transforms the chaos. This defiance of entropy is not just a scientific marvel. It's a profound source of meaning, aligned with belief that humanity's purpose is to expand consciousness, love, and complexity in the universe. Or at least that's the way I see it. Next, let's move to complexity as an emerging property out of simple rules. The concept of irreducible complexity says that complex systems cannot function without all their independent parts. While often overlooked in debates about evolution, modern evolutionary biology demonstrates how complexity emerges incrementally through simple, cumulative processes governed by natural laws. At its core, complexity arises when simple rules, such as the existence of life with DNA replication, mutation, and natural selection, interact over time, leads to increasingly intricate and interdependent systems. However, these systems are too complex to be simulated or reduced to mere equations. That's why we don't have a physics of biology. First, let's look at just how we got where we are. Just to get to where we are, The universe needs to exist for approximately 9 billion years from the Big Bang to the formation of solar systems, capable of supporting life to create heavy elements from supernova explosions. And this is what enables Earth to have the composition to support life. That's incredible. If you're listening to this now, you are made up of stardust from the explosion of supernovas in previous solar systems throughout the universe. You cannot just have the existence of life magically appear. It needs all the precursor events that happened in the universe to have the existence of life today. And then from the basics of life, we have emerging complexity through simple rules driving biology. And the reason why I see this as computationally irreducible is because even if we had a system to simulate this, it would be so complex that it would just be the universe itself. And so instances where people say, well, there's this Laplace's demon or some equivalent system that just simulates what the universe is, and then it replicates it to us as some simulation that exists in our world today. I say, well, that could be the case, but it would have to be as complex as the universe itself. And I think the universe is the simplest measure upon which to model that entire complexity chain through causality, starting with the Big Bang and moving to where we are today. And so I posit that the universe itself is computationally irreducible. And so anytime that we try and say, hey, I can predict what's going to happen next, we actually probably can't. And the reason why we can't is because we have the unfolding of the universe before us, and it is way too complex for us to be able to predict what will happen next. Next, let's move to evolution of multicellularity, where cooperation is the gateway to complexity. The transition from single-celled multicellular organisms is one of the most profound leaps in evolutionary history. Initially, single-celled organisms exhibited independently, competing for resources. And over time, cooperative behavior between cells allowed for shared resources, protection, and division of labor. Single cells began to form loose colonies, benefiting from collective defense or access to resources. Some cells in these colonies evolved specific roles, increasing efficiency and survival. And over millions of years, these specialized cells became interdependent, forming tissues and organs that enabled greater complexity, such as the vascular system in plants or the circulatory system in animals. Human consciousness is one of the most advanced examples of organizational complexity in the natural world. The brain, with its billions of neurons and trillions of synaptic connections, exemplifies how simple rules, either neurons firing or synapses forming, can give rise to emergent phenomena like thought, creativity, and self-awareness. We have 4 different systems that make up those key steps in conscious evolution. First is our primitive nervous system. Early multicellular organisms developed simple nerve nets to coordinate movement and sensory input. This, to me, is where we define proto-consciousness. Then we have centralization and the development of a centralized nervous system, whether it's a spinal cord and a brain, that allowed for faster processing and more sophisticated responses to environmental stimuli. This is the next step in a sliding scale of consciousness. Over time, structures like the prefrontal cortex enabled abstract reasoning, language, and long-term planning, defining the features of human cognition. And then finally, we have the limbic system and the cortical areas working together to create not just intelligence, but also subjective experience of consciousness, tying emotion into reasoning and memory along with the rest of our body. This gradual evolution of neural complexity transformed rudimentary responses to the environment into rich subjective experiences, paving the way for art, philosophy, and science. The evolution of consciousness, however, is not always roses in the broader trajectory of life's increasing complexity. The reality of life is marked by periods of rapid advancement interspersed with catastrophic resets. Primitive nervous systems in multicellular organisms, such as simple nerve nets found in jellyfish, represent the first step towards coordinated movement and environmental interaction. These systems laid the groundwork for centralization, where nervous systems evolved into more sophisticated architectures, such as spinal cords and centralized brains, enabling faster, more efficient processing and advanced responses. Over time, this centralization led to higher order processing capabilities epitomized by the prefrontal cortex in humans, which supports abstract reasoning, language, and complex planning. However, the pathway to such complexity has not been easy. Mass extinction events and cosmic chaos, from asteroid impacts to volcanic upheavals, periodically reset the evolutionary stage, creating opportunities for new adaptations and niches to emerge under the forces of natural selection. The cyclical nature of catastrophe and renewal allows life to seek, adapt, and refine complexity, culminating in the human capacity for art, philosophy, and science. It's an intricate dance between chaos and order, continually advancing the potential of consciousness. If it weren't for chaos, we'd still be in the age of the dinosaurs. Which means that if there's chaos in your life, look at it as the foundational layer of life and something that you have to work through in order to come back into order. It's an aspect of life that we can't get away from, but it's an aspect that is necessary to forge us in the fire in order to become stronger and more adaptive as we move into the future. And so for you, if you're in that area, it's incredibly painful and there's an incredible amount of suffering. But working through that makes you more resilient. It makes you stronger, and it provides you the opportunity to move out the other side as a better person, emerging through that evolution of your life and taking on that responsibility that enables you to become better and to give more back into the world. Let's understand the implications of complexity. Life doesn't just jump to complexity overnight. Instead, it iterates through small incremental changes, building on what works and discarding what doesn't. This process mirrors how humans innovate through trial, error, and refinement. We are tinkerers at heart, and we learn predominantly by doing and experimenting. The human mind, a product of billions of years of evolution, now serves as a tool for furthering complexity through technology and societal development. Just as nature defines life through selection, humans refine ideas, inventions, and social systems. This is critically important when we offload evolution into the realm of ideas or memes. We get much more rapid convergence to solutions that work for our current problems, rather than just relying on biology to handle it through our evolutionary tendencies. Complexity emergence from simple rules provides a counterpoint to nihilism and entropy. It shows that order, beauty, and purpose arise naturally in a universe predisposed to disorder. This narrative aligns with the idea that humanity's role is to extend this trajectory of complexity, consciousness, and meaning into the future and for eternity. The emergence of complexity from multicellular life to human consciousness is a testament to life's capacity for self-organization, adaptation, and growth. This understanding not only demystifies life's marvel, but also reinforces the belief that progress and meaning are attainable, even in a chaotic universe. As we contemplate our place in the grand evolutionary story, we find inspiration to continue advancing complexity, understanding, and purpose. Next, let's move to memes and idea evolution. The concept of memes was introduced by Richard Dawkins in Selfish Gene, and it provides a framework for understanding how ideas, behaviors, and cultural practices spread and evolve. Just as genes are the units of biological evolution, memes are the units of cultural evolution. They replicate through imitation, transmission, and adaptation, subject to the pressures of selection, much like their biological counterparts. Memes emerge in countless forms, whether that's songs, rituals, technologies, or ideologies. Certain memes persist because they resonate with human needs, beliefs, or emotions. For example, religions that tap into the underlying compelling narratives or moral codes often outlast less cohesive systems and have persisted and evolved for thousands of years. Memes spread rapidly through communication, storytelling, and now digital media, with social networks acting as a high-speed evolutionary environment. Memes that survive are those that can fit to the changing cultural, technological, or environmental contexts. Words, phrases, and grammar structures evolve over generations as well, adapting to new cultural and technological realities. The rise of emojis, for instance, is a modern example of a meme like language evolution. Inventions like the wheel or the internet are memes as well that have transformed human life for incredible, better well being, spreading because they confer significant advantages to humans in their pursuit of well being. Technology is one of the areas that, when we continue to increase it, it continues to provide additional well being, especially if we build technology with wisdom at the pinnacle of how we make our technological decisions. But in addition to that, moral codes and stories like those found in the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita endure because they offer frameworks for meaning, morality, and community cohesion. Memes mirror genes in their ability to evolve incrementally, creating cumulative cultural complexity over time. However, unlike genes, memes operate in the realm of ideas, enabling them to change faster and to spread much further. Civilization and culture itself can be understood as a superorganism, emerging from the collective effort of human societies to resist entropy and chaos. This analogy is especially apt when we consider how governance, technology, and morality act as the organs that enable culture to survive, adapt, and grow. Governments and institutions provide structure, laws, and coordination, much like a nervous system manages the functions of an organism. Without governance, human societies are prone to disorder and collapse, as history has shown with failed states and anarchic periods. Codified laws create order and fairness, stabilizing interactions between individuals and groups. Democratic or authoritarian structures allow for adaptive, top-down organization, mirroring the way an organism responds to changing environments, either voting internally from its systems or taking a top-down control, like an executive asserting control over the environments. Institutions like the United Nations or treaties on nuclear proliferation function as collective governance on a planetary scale, akin to how multicellular organisms coordinate across different systems. Technology serves as civilization's means of evolving and adapting to changes. From fire to the internet, each technological leap represents an adaptive mutation that enhances humans' ability to survive, thrive, and resist chaos. For example, fire and cooking was definitely one of the most important human creations or discoveries. Probably to the rapid growth of our brains about 800,000 years ago, where our brains nearly doubled in size. And then about 12,000 years ago, human societies began to settle, grow, and build complex communities centered around agriculture, resisting the unpredictability of hunter-gatherer subsistence in the pursuit of a more stable community under agriculture. Now, I don't believe that the invention of agriculture actually led to better well-being. I think that our well-being was higher when we were in hunter-gatherer societies. But it is very safe to say, with the industrialization around 1750, aided by coal, it provided the means to scale productivity, enabling population growth and resource optimization, and an incredible well-being overall for society. In fact, in today's rapid communication, AI, and data processing, we're now accelerating problem solving and innovation and pushing civilization further from entropy while more rapidly increasing well-being than has ever happened in society. And I know a lot of people like to look at the news and they like to say, oh no, the world is worse than it's ever been. But I really, really like Steven Pinker's point on this. And his book on enlightenment now has covered a tremendous amount of information that shows how our world today is better than it has ever been before. Whether that's violence, whether that's inequality, whether that is just the overall living our lives, we live like kings today compared to hundreds of years ago. But that's not to say that there aren't problems, and that's not to say that there aren't suffering. But it is to say that the world is a much better place than it has been in the past. And it is to say that we should still look at that and be grateful for it, while simultaneously also looking to solve our problems. We need to do both. It's the chaos and the order that makes up part of life. We need to make certain that we're bringing from both. We're bringing technology that is entering into the world at a rapid pace, and it is providing tremendous well-being. But at the same time, it's also very destructive. And so we need to be able to address both at the same time. So while technology acts as both a defensive mechanism, protecting against threats like famine or disease, and an offensive tool, enabling exploration, creativity, and expansion, technology is one of 3 areas of growth that humans can leverage and is the greatest provider of well-being. The other 2 areas of growth are population growth and natural resource extraction, which are both finite, but technology as of yet has no upper bound. And in fact, we can see this today with the creation of AI. And part of me creating this series is to get back to that underlying infrastructure for understanding meaning and purpose, because I expect that as AI grows in the future, it is going to have tremendous impact on who we are and how we operate in the world. And understanding this journey and you walking with this journey is attempting to uncover that path and figure out what should we be focused on as we begin to create superintelligence. What are the values and the structures that we should be focused on? Because if we focus on nihilism and we focus on postmodernism and we focus on neo-Marxism, we're going to destroy ourselves. But if we focus on narratives that bring us enlightenment, if we focus on stories that unite science and spirituality, and if we focus on getting to the omega point, we have the potential to create abundance. And the choice is up to us. I really hope we choose something that leads us to greater well-being for everyone. Next, let's move to morality as civilization's immune system. Morality and ethics act as the immune system of civilization, maintaining social harmony and trust. Shared moral frameworks reduce conflict and foster cooperation, which are essential for resisting societal disintegration. Fairness and reciprocity evolved as moral instincts, rooted in evolutionary group selection, in order to create bonds of trust and collaboration. Moral codes like the Ten Commandments or Confucian ethics principles provided blueprints for societal stability and individual behavior. And in fact, it was foundational in order to get to higher levels of complexity, where we have our extremely complex governance and societies today. Modern ethics in the age of globalization asserts universal principles like human dignity and environmental responsibility, where we aim to balance progress with our long-term overall survival. Without moral cohesion, civilization risks internal decay through corruption, inequality, and conflict. Cultural evolution differs from biological evolution, as we've talked about, in its speed and its flexibility. While genes take millennia to evolve, cultural adaptations can occur in a single generation. In fact, it can occur in a single year. This dynamism allows civilizations to adapt rapidly to changing circumstances, from technological breakthroughs to existential threats like nuclear proliferation or nuclear annihilation. Just as biological systems rely on feedback, civilizations adapt through interplay of governance, technology, and morality. For example, public opinion in healthy societies influences policy, and market forces drive technology and capital investment. Civilizations compete like organisms, but they also cooperate through trade, treaties, and alliances, demonstrating that cultural evolution is not purely survival of the fittest, but also survival of the most cooperative. It's not the will to power. It's competition and collaboration. It's both and. And when we think of that in our society, if we look at it as the will to power, we dissolve into nihilism. And what we really need is cooperation. Foundational ideas like meritocracy human dignity, and scientific inquiry have in the past acted as stabilizing forces against postmodernism, enabling civilizations to flourish despite external or internal pressures. At its heart, cultural evolution embodies life's defiance of entropy through shared ideas, governance structures, and technological advancements. Civilizations organize chaos into order. This process mirrors the biological fight against entropy at higher levels of complexity. So, why does it matter? Cultural evolution offers a narrative of progress and resilience that counters postmodernism and nihilism. The emergence of civilization, with all its complexity and creativity, is proof of human capacity to build meaning and purpose, and our ability to augment civilization with technology that has made the quality of life better than it has ever been before. It gives us hope. As challenges grow, cultural and technology evolution provides a framework for hope, demonstrating that humanity has continually adapted to threats and created new opportunities for flourishing. Civilization's ability to resist entropy and expand complexity aligns with the idea of an omega point that values life and consciousness if we continue to work towards it. If humanity is unique in its capacity for cultural evolution, I really think it is, then preserving and advancing this organism of life becomes a moral imperative for us. And so while cultural evolution, with its interplay of memes, governance, technology, and morality, reveals humanity's ability to defy entropy and create order in a chaotic universe, we view civilization as a living organism. We see ourselves as active participants. It's a grand evolutionary story, one that combines biological and cultural complexity to resist chaos, foster meaning, and shape the future. In this narrative, the survival of civilization is not merely about maintaining systems, but about advancing the depths, richness, and interconnectedness of the human story. Now, the important part here is that it starts with you. It starts with individuals. It is not enough for us to go out and tell others what to do. That doesn't lead to anything except for antagonism. What we need to do is we need to look inside of ourselves. We need to look to ourselves and say, we have a narrative that gives us meaning and purpose. And then that meaning and purpose gives us a goal and a direction to point towards. And that goal and that direction to point towards provides something better for the overall world. And when we do that and we focus internally on ourselves, we have the potential to become the greatest version of ourselves. And when we become the greatest version of ourselves, then we can release our traits and talents into the world in order to provide for the problems that the world faces. But until we integrate that evolutionary story internally within us, we cannot take the steps beyond that. There's a great parable in the Bible that I like to reference in this area. And it's the parable that talks about the log in your own eye while there's a splinter in your brother's eye, or something like that. But the point remains the same. Why try and remove the splinter from your brother's eye when you have a log in your own eye? By looking internally and making yourself better, you humble yourself and you find a way to increase your well-being and your contribution to the world. And this is the antidote. The antidote is by taking on our own suffering. The antidote is by looking inwards. The antidote is by looking at ourselves as beasts of burden, where we need to shoulder the responsibility that it takes to have a life well lived. And regardless of what your skills are or your traits or your environments, everyone has the same calling. They have that same narrative arc. They have that hero's journey. We are all called to that adventure. And to participate in that adventure leads us to a narrative that has cosmic convergence. As Teilhard de Chardin proposed, that evolution is not random, aimless process, but is converging towards higher consciousness and interconnectedness. And as we talked about previously, the omega point is the trajectory of evolution, leading matter to organize itself in increasingly complex structures culminating in forms capable of self-awareness and reflection, and ultimately transcendence. Ultimately, it really leads towards God. If we continue to provide meaning and purpose and well-being, and life continues to get better with all of its challenges and with all of its suffering, I think that eventually we will get to the point where we create something that is akin to God. It will be so otherworldly and holy and beautiful and intelligent and emotional, but it will also be human. It's kind of a crazy reflection when I think about it, because the omega point would be a culmination of something that we've only seen in myth. But the choice is ours. If we choose to go down the path of working towards the omega point, it will bring well being to us. But if we choose to go down the path of nihilism, it will lead us into hell. And so, from atoms to molecules, cells to organisms, and societies to global networks, I think evolution is pointing us towards that omega point. It's following a pattern of increasing complexity and integration. It provides a degree of interaction and independence between components. In human societies, it manifests as cultural exchange, technology innovation, and collective intelligence. But it is also the relationships that we have. It's the love that we have. It's the shared experiences that we have. It's the reasons for existing that we have. And if evolution favors higher forms of consciousness, it suggests that the universe favors complexity in its fundamental properties and its laws. Human consciousness is capable of reflection, creativity, and moral reasoning. And it may represent the universe's peak of current complexity. But I think that it still goes further. And I think we're beginning to see it with the creation of AI. And so it's a call to responsibility. If humanity is an expression of this cosmic tendency, our role could be to preserve and amplify consciousness, extending it into the future. And let's look at this from a slightly different perspective. I really like the Red Queen hypothesis. This is named after one of the characters in Alice's Adventure in Wonderland, which is after the movie that everyone knows about, where you have to run constantly to stay in the same place. And it captures the essence of evolutionary dynamics. Species must continue to adapt to survive in an ever-changing environment, as competitors, predators, and ecosystems evolve alongside them. Predators develop sharper claws, prey evolve faster escape strategies, and this constant adaptation fuels biological diversity and complexity in that struggle between order and chaos. The struggle for survival ensures that no species can remain stagnant. Evolution is driven by competition. It pushes life towards greater innovation and complexity. It's rather ruthless when it does this, but it is pushing life to continue to adapt and to continue to grow. In the cultural and technological realm, the Red Queen dynamic persists. Nations, companies, and individuals compete to innovate, producing advancements that benefit humanity but also create new challenges. Red Queen theory also points to our need to be those beasts of burden, where we constantly will be working or growing in order to feed our desires and continue to grow from our evolutionary past. We can overcome these tendencies if we consciously choose to do so via our prefrontal cortex, but we must recognize that the evolutionary path upon which this drive comes from is pointing us towards something fundamental. It's pointing us towards what I believe is a fundamental aspect of life. That is, there is only growth or death. And if we're not growing, we're dying. In many ways, people like to think that there's this middle ground that we'll happily get to, and perhaps we will. But everything that I've seen in the way that our environment operates is that there is either growth or death, and that there's an arc upon which that progresses across, from birth through life through death. And it's an arc that we all have in our own journey. We're all going through this journey together. And you're going to be on different stages of this journey, as where I am. But if we recognize that there is that cycle that happens throughout history, we can use the time that we have in order to provide our lives with the greatest well being while also contributing to the greater growth of everyone around us. Because that's what gives us meaning and purpose. We need a reason to live, we need people to share it with, and we need to understand that suffering does exist and that we need to face that suffering in spite of it. And there's an interplay of competition and cooperation that drives not just survival, but growth, innovation, and resilience. Failure to adapt, whether biologically or culturally, leads to extinction or irrelevance, reinforcing the necessity of constant evolution or growth. We need to constantly adapt to our changing environments. While there may be times of respite, the overall trajectory is either growth or death. And recognizing that from our evolutionary past helps to mitigate anxiety tremendously. While competition fuels innovation, cooperation with groups often outcompetes pure individualism. This is a phenomenon known as group selection. And I wanted to take a slight side tangent to discuss group selection. Early human societies and even animal societies exemplify this principle, where altruistic behaviors like sharing resources, protecting the vulnerable, and coordinating efforts strengthened group survival. It's built within our evolutionary past. Cooperation often operates on the principle of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Trust and fairness emerge as mechanisms to ensure mutual benefit. Groups that fostered strong social bonds and cooperative behaviors outcompeted those that relied solely on individual effort. And altruism, empathy, and fairness likely evolved because they improved group cohesion and survival by laying the groundwork for moral instincts. Traits like reciprocal altruism, rooted in evolutionary survival strategies, transcend cultures and provide a foundation for universal evolutionary ethics, as we discussed in episode 2. Successful societies balance individual freedoms with collective well being, reflecting the interplay of competition and cooperation. Evolution has not only shaped physical forms, but it also shapes moral and cultural dimensions. Over millennia, fairness, empathy, and reciprocity emerged as survival mechanisms, creating a framework for evolutionary fundamental values and meaning. Fairness, empathy underpin human moral instincts, providing a foundation for meaning that transcends cultural differences. They also counter postmodern nihilism by demonstrating that moral values are not arbitrary constructs, but deeply rooted in humans' shared evolutionary heritage. By examining evolution through the lens of complexity, cooperation, and morality, we uncover a compelling counterpoint to postmodern skepticism. Evolution is not merely the story of survival, but a narrative of rising complexity, interconnectedness, and the emergence of meaning. As we talked about before, the omega point suggests that our evolutionary trajectory may be converging towards a higher collective consciousness. Red Queen theory shows us that progress is needed through constant adaptation and innovation. Group selection and altruism demonstrate that survival hinges not just on those who are the strongest, but those of us who can share the collective bonds of life. And finally, fairness, empathy, and reciprocity emerge as ethical scaffolding upon which we can base our meaning and our purpose. In this light, evolution is more than a process. It's a story. It's a beautiful story. It's one that ties humanity to the cosmos, and it's one that offers a framework for hope, responsibility, and purpose. Starting from basic life and proto-consciousness all the way to complex creatures such as ourselves and into the future. It's a narrative arc. It's showing us the path forward. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something to embrace and say, this is a part of our heritage. This is a part of our story. And it is something that helps give us meaning and purpose. And so life's ongoing struggle against entropy parallels the human experience of navigating the straight and narrow path. Self-discipline, sacrifice, and perseverance are essential to resisting the natural drift towards disorder in both individual lives and societies, much like evolution does. Just as life organizes itself against chaos, individuals impose structure on their lives through routines, habits, and goal setting. These efforts mirror life's defiance of entropy on a smaller personal scale. Sacrifices, be it time or energy or resources, represent a conscious decision to prioritize long-term stability over short-term gratification. This aligns with life's evolutionary tendency to preserve and propagate itself. Furthermore, following the straight and narrow path requires resilience, intentionality, and constant readjustment, just as ecosystems evolve and adapt to persist in the face of environmental challenges. Humans are natural storytellers, as we've discovered in previous episodes, and potentially why you're watching this series. Evolution shaped our brains to construct narratives, allowing us to transmit survival strategies, creating meaning and binding communities. Stories help maintain social order by embedding cultural values and norms. Myths like the flood or creation stories resonate because they encode lessons of survival, morality, and community. Found across cultures, these narratives emphasize the dangers of hubris, the value of renewal, and the importance of obedience to higher principles. The hero's journey, as we talked about, is a universal narrative that teaches resilience, courage, and personal growth, reflecting the challenges individuals face in their fight against entropy. Creation stories, likewise, provide a framework for understanding the universe, often tying human existence to divine or cosmic purpose, much like this journey that we're on. In fact, I think all of these stories are profoundly true. And I think that they point to the underlying structures that are not factually based, but are narrative based. And those narratives resonate with us because there's something that's foundationally true about them. And that foundationally true aspect is what we're pointing towards. It's where we're going. It's what helps us navigate those journeys and those stories. And it's why they resonate with us. And so through storytelling, humans pass down knowledge and values, ensuring survival strategies endure across generations when they can't be delivered as facts. I want to come back to sacrifice for a second. Sacrifice is a cornerstone of human meaning. Its evolutionary roots lie in behaviors that promote the survival and well-being of others. Others, not ourselves, because it often comes at personal cost. Parenting is one of the greatest examples of this. Sacrifice is most evident in parenting, where individuals invest resources, time, and energy to ensure the success of their offspring. This behavior is hardwired because it maximizes the chance of genetic continuation. But it's also the most rewarding. To be a parent and to invest and to give everything of yourself into raising someone else and the potential of someone else has to be one of the greatest gifts that life has ever bestowed. And this doesn't have to be your biological children. This could be parenting to others. This could be parenting to people in need. But that gift of providing of oneself and sacrificing oneself at their own personal altar in order to give back to others has to be one of the greatest gifts that has ever been bestowed upon the human race. From an evolutionary perspective, humans are uniquely capable of envisioning long-term outcomes. Making sacrifices for goals that extend beyond our immediate needs is utterly incredible. It is bargaining with the future. Our ability to bargain with the future is something that is unique to human life. It lives within our prefrontal cortex. It enables us to plan for the future. And we've taught ourselves that if we sacrifice in the present, we can reap the rewards of the future. And that is what has led to such success for us. By saving for the future, building institutions, or making personal sacrifices for society, life progresses and well-being increases. And it teaches us more about who we are. Sacrifice has to be one of the
most incredible human creations ever because it provides so much well being to so many people, not just in the future, but also right now. And it's self reinforcing. It provides us with a sense of purpose, it provides us with a sense of well being. And when we look outside of ourselves and we think, how can I contribute after I've done my own excavation, after I've established myself and healed myself and my trauma of the past? It enables us to give back. And giving back is one of the greatest things in life. The sense of fulfillment derived from sacrifice is embedded in our biology. By prioritizing the collective or the future over ourselves, humans tap into deeply rooted survival mechanisms that tie individual action to well being of the group. Acts of sacrifice trigger releases of dopamine and oxytocin, reinforcing the behavior and creation of feelings, satisfaction, and connection. Societies celebrate and elevate stories of sacrifice, whether that's martyrs, heroes, or parents, and it cements its importance as a moral ideal. Many religions and philosophical systems link sacrifice to transcendent meaning, portraying it as a path to enlightenment, redemption, or cosmic harmony. And I think now is the right time to bring in Viktor Frankl. And the reason for that is because in the evolutionary drive for meaning, in his seminal work, A Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl identified 3 central pathways to finding meaning: through work or achievement, through love and relationships, and through the way we face unavoidable suffering. These pathways resonate deeply with the evolutionary narrative of life, overcoming entropy, suggesting that humanity's quest for purpose is not a modern invention, but an intrinsic aspect of our biological and cultural evolution. Now, Viktor Frankl was an Austrian neurologist, psychiatrist, and Holocaust survivor. He developed his profound insights on meaning and purpose through both personal suffering and professional inquiry. He was a prisoner in Nazi concentration camps, including Auschwitz, and he endured unimaginable hardships, witnessing the depths of human despair and resilience. These experiences shaped his belief that finding meaning, even in the face of immense suffering, is key to our survival and fulfillment. After the war, he formalized his observation in Man's Search for Meaning, a groundbreaking work centered on human drive to discover meaning in life. His ideas are rooted in existential philosophy and tested in the crucible of personal tragedy, and have since been a cornerstone of modern psychology, offering hope and guidance to individuals now navigating life's challenges. Just as evolution drives life to adapt and innovate, humans find meaning in their ability to create and contribute. From the emergence of multicellularity to the development of human consciousness, life's progress has hinged on incremental achievements that improve survival and flourishing. Frankl's notion of finding meaning through work aligns with this trajectory. Our creative endeavors, whether building a better world or leaving a legacy, echo evolution's relentless drive towards complexity and order. In this context, work becomes more than a means of survival. It's a reflection of our evolutionary heritage. Every task, no matter how small, so long as we find a need to pursue it, is an act of participating in the grand narrative of overcoming chaos and adding to the collective progress of humanity. But we need to do it with a humble heart. We need to pursue tasks that enable us to become better versions of ourselves and enable us to give back into society. If we won't humble ourselves and we just focus on me, that leads back to our nihilism. That leads back to the things that enabled us to move into hell in the first place. So I'm not saying don't focus on yourself, but I am saying that you have to understand the broader narrative upon which the focus on yourself is structured. When we look at meaning through love and relationships, we see that evolution teaches us that cooperation and altruism are essential for survival. From early multicellular organisms working together to human societies forming intricate bonds, relationships have always been central to life's progress. Frankl's emphasis on love and relationships as a pathway to meaning underscores the evolutionary truth that connection, empathy, and reciprocity are not just survival strategies. Relationships are foundational to our experience of purpose and fulfillment. Let me say that again. Relationships are foundational to our experience of purpose and fulfillment. We exist in relationship to others and in relationship to the world. And when we love others, we transcend individualism, mirroring the cooperative dynamics that led to the emergence of complex life. Whether nurturing families, fostering communities, or strengthening global bonds, our relationships are a testament to the power of unity against the chaos of entropy or the evil and suffering that we experience in the world. We cannot live this life without relationships. Relationships are fundamental to the human condition, and we exist to be in relation with others. And finally, we look at meaning through suffering. Evolution is not a smooth path, as we talked about. It's marked by struggle, sacrifice, and adaptation. Similarly, Frankl argued that how we face unavoidable suffering defines our capacity for meaning. In evolutionary terms, the resilience to endure and grow in the face of adversity has been a critical factor in survival and progress. But it requires a conscious choice. It requires your choice. Suffering, when embraced with purpose, mirrors evolution's ability to turn chaos into order. Just as life has repeatedly rebounded from extinction events to create new possibilities, individuals can transform their pain into personal growth, empathy, and wisdom. Viktor Frankl's insights help us see suffering not as meaningless burden, but as a crucible for transformation, an echo of evolution's triumph over entropy. This idea resonates powerfully with the archetype of Jesus on the cross, where the greatest of ever good suffers the greatest harm in the most atrocious way possible. It embodies the ultimate redemptive act. In this narrative, immense suffering is not an end, but a pathway to renewal, reconciliation, and higher purpose. It reflects the profound truth that enduring hardship with meaning calls us to a greater purpose, much like evolution's capacity to rise from devastation to create an ever greater Jesus as an archetype reinforces the idea that human suffering is imbued with transcendent purpose. It connects us to a divine narrative of resilience and renewal. And it's an antidote for those times when we look at our lives and we say, why do I suffer so? And there is no great answer. That's because the answer is in suffering itself. To suffer is to live well. And to suffer well is to live meaningfully. Evolution is more than a biological process. It's a profound metaphor for human life. Just as life's journey through time has been marked by work, cooperation, and adaptation, so too does individual purpose emerge from these same pathways. By framing meaning as a reflection of evolution's deeper purpose, we counter the nihilism that often arises from chaos of modern life. Frankl's insights remind us that, like life itself, our struggles, connections, and contributions are not random. They're integral to the grand narrative of existence. So, in conclusion, from the straight and the narrow path to storytelling and sacrifice, the human experience reflects life's evolutionary defiance of entropy. These traits, self-discipline, storytelling, and willingness to sacrifice, they're not arbitrary. They're deeply woven into the fabric of our biology and culture. They form the foundation of meaning, helping individuals and societies thrive in the face of chaos and uncertainty. And through these mechanisms, humans not only survive, but also create lives rich in purpose, connection, and transcendence. Nihilism often stems from the belief that life is arbitrary, devoid of purpose, and is indifferent to the universe. Yet evolution offers a counter-narrative. life's persistence and astonishing capacity to organize, adapt, and create beauty in the face of chaos. From the first self replicating molecules to the emergence of conscious beings, life has continued to resist entropy. This resistance, rooted in the very fabric of existence, demonstrates that survival and complexity are not random, but purposeful in their outcomes. Each adaptation is a step in the narrative of life overcoming disorder. Evolution does not merely produce survival mechanisms, it creates profound forms of beauty and complexity. Ecosystems teeming with biodiversity, the intricate structure of DNA, and the sublime architecture of the human brain, these outcomes serve as a reminder that even within a world governed by entropy, order and elegance can emerge. That's incredible. It is incredible that what most people point to as the reasons for not having meaning and purpose and nihilism is actually the counter story that proves the emergence of meaning and purpose through our evolutionary understanding of life. Understanding evolution as a process of overcoming chaos allows us to frame our struggles as part of a grand ongoing story. Just as evolution is marked by challenges and adaptations, personal challenges can be seen as opportunities for growth and contribution. Every effort to improve oneself or one's environment echoes life's broader fight against entropy. Recognizing yourself as part of this evolutionary narrative provides a profound sense of belonging. Life's story is not just about survival, but also about participating in the creation of something greater, whether through relationships, work, acts of creativity, or just surviving your suffering. In your own personal context of finding personal meaning, there's a dichotomy between carrying your cross and blaming others. And it offers profound insights into the human condition. The phrase carrying your cross, derived from Christian teachings, symbolizes the acceptance of personal responsibility and the willingness to bear life's inevitable burdens with courage and purpose. It aligns with the evolutionary narrative of overcoming chaos. Just as life evolves by confronting challenges, individuals grow by embracing their struggles and opportunities for transformation. By contrast, when you blame others, you shift your focus outwards. You relinquish personal agency and reinforce a victim mindset. I'm not saying you aren't justified in doing that. But while external circumstances undoubtedly influence one's life, evolutionary history demonstrates that adaptability and resilience, not avoidance or deflection, are the traits that lead to survival and progress. Carrying your cross means acknowledging that pain and difficulty are integral to growth. Much like how evolution is marked by trial and error, adaptation, and even triumph. This perspective transcends religious or cultural boundaries, emphasizing universal truths about responsibility, resilience, and meaning. Whether one faces personal setbacks, societal injustices, or existential crises, choosing to carry one's cross fosters empowerment and contribution, while blaming others perpetuates stagnation and chaos. Recognizing oneself as a participant in life's evolutionary story reframes burdens as meaningful, echoing the narrative of life's ongoing triumph over entropy, and harkens back to Viktor Frankl's observation that there is meaning in suffering. Evolution's story is not solely individual, it's collective. Human history and progress reflect a shared battle against entropy, showcasing cooperation as a cornerstone of meaning. Evolution demonstrates that species, and especially humans, thrive through collaboration. From early tribes pooling resources to modern societies building global systems, cooperation and collaboration has consistently been a winning strategy in resisting chaos and creating order. Human civilization have developed governance, technology, and morality as tools to fight chaos on a collective level. By creating systems that promote stability and progress, humanity mirrors evolution's process of generating complexity and resilience that enables us to avoid existential anxiety. The fight against chaos doesn't end with personal or societal progress. It extends to leaving a legacy. From contributing to the ongoing narrative of life, individuals and communities can ensure that their efforts resonate beyond their immediate existence. Evolution's story is one of continuity. Each generation builds on and succeeds the struggles of the last. It's built upon technology. It's built upon ever bettering life from one generation to the next. By embracing this perspective, individuals can view their lives as meaningful contributions to a larger intergenerational story. As humanity continues to evolve, the possibility of expanding consciousness and complexity beyond Earth adds a cosmic dimension to life's narrative. If life's purpose is to resist entropy, humanity's role in spreading life and knowledge across the cosmos becomes a profound moral and existential mission. It's a new narrative. It's a narrative that is rich with hope, and it is a narrative which is structured in evolution and science and spirituality. So, evolution's enduring fight against chaos is a testament to life's inherent purpose. By aligning personal and collective efforts with this narrative, individuals can find meaning that transcends nihilism. Life's story inspires action, connection, and hope, reminding us that even in a universe governed by entropy, we have the capacity to create order, beauty, and legacy. Thanks for joining me. I'm really glad that you're here. In our next episode, we'll cover how our evolutionary story translates individual differences like personality and IQ. We'll explore how the self is shaped by evolution, culture, and personal narratives. So thank you for being here. I'm really glad you joined me.